Hello everyone, this is part 9 of What If Naruto Had the Ninetails and the Shinigami sealed inside him, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives. So the sword that I now wield, is the sword of a crazed outcast. Naruto said, looking at the hilt of his sword. Don't think of it like that, Naruto, you have done good things with that sword ever since you got it, you've renamed it and everyone knows that. Yoroiki said as the two took a long silence looking at the horizon. Well, it's late, so I better get some sleep, I have training tomorrow, by Yoroiki. Naruto said as he stood up and walked off as Yoroiki looked back and watched him walk away. The next day, Naruto immediately ran over to Kyoraku and saw him talking with Nanao about random daily stuff. The two looked at him and smiled since they have all become like family to each other. Naruto got sidetracked by their conversation and an hour passed before he remembered why he came to Kyoraku. Kyoraku-sensei, I'm ready for my training. Naruto said, and then silence overtook the room. Okay, Kyoraku said and remained where he was, which sort of ticked Naruto off. Kyoraku-sensei. Yes, my training. You don't expect me to teach you how to get to your Kai. No, that is something you have to do by yourself. What? How am I supposed to do that? I thought you would have figured that out already, Nanao said under her breath, looking away, which aggravated Naruto a bit. I'll give you somewhat of a stepping stone, your first step to achieving Kai. Kyoraku said, then opened a rift-like door. He then looked at it, then looked back at Naruto and said, in here there is a special training room for you and your Zanpakuto spirit to train. The only one who can train you is basically your sword, sorta, Kyoraku said, putting his hand behind his head and looking up thinking. Okay, I got it. I'll just go and step through this now, see you in 1 month. Naruto said, not really thinking of a goodbye and just walking through. You think he can do it? Nanao asked Kyoraku, looking over at him. He's Naruto Uzumaki, I know he can, Kyoraku said and grinned as the two walked off. Naruto arrived in an area with a semi-arid-like appearance with small mountains everywhere. There seemed to be no end to the land, even though there was. He looked forward and saw his sword standing a few feet from him as it glowed crimson red, and a figure started to come from the sword and go beside the sword. Is this my Zanpakuto spirit? Naruto said, thinking his spirit would be totally badass. The figure then turned into that of a human. It was a girl with long orange hair and cat-like SS for her pupils and red eyes. The girl was around her mid-20s and wore a long black kimono with a blood-red trim. The sleeves seemed too long for her hand and you could hardly see her feet. Naruto blinked and got red but then twitched. So, who are you? Naruto asked. I'm the Kyuubi, your Zanpakuto. The girl said. My Zanpakuto is a girl, Naruto said and paused, then shouted and stomped his feet on the ground, wanting some giant robot with gamma rays or something like that. The Kyuubi began to get pissed and hit him on the head hard as he rubbed his head, and she began to talk. Listen, unfortunately I have to help you reach Kai. I don't feel in a grumpy mood today, so I will help you. The Kyuubi said. Naruto also found out that she had a fox tail. Wait, when you first talked to me you sounded like a guy, now you sound like a girl. Naruto said, tilting his head, then looked away and said, I might have to check just to be sure. He then got hit harder on the head, making him fall down, rubbing his head even more. Damn woman, can't you take a joke? He then got hit once more. I simply do the same thing Yoroiki does, have my voice change into that of a male's. Kyuubi simply explained. Well, I guess we should get training, I only have 1 month and whatnot. Naruto said and got up as Kyuubi nodded. Well, let's get started, Kyuubi stated as Naruto followed Kyuubi to go and train. XXX. Your training is almost complete, Sasuke, go meet with Aizen and try and join the main clan. If you do, I promise you'll get closer to King Naruto. Orochimaru said and grinned as Sasuke walked over to him. Sasuke looked over at Orochimaru and seemed very interested. The Arrancar transformation had left a permanent mark on Sasuke. He had pale skin and his open shirt from Shippuden, basically he wore what you first see him in Shippuden. His Arrancar mask was like a Konoha forehead protector and having a scratch on the leaf symbol. The mask had described his thoughts before he, SD, and he was thinking about Konoha in his final hours. His mask also branched downward to a lens around his eye and covered his cheekbone, then connected with the other part of the mask which covered the side of his face but curved near his jaw. Sasuke also had the whole all Arrancar's hand on the side of his shoulder, but you couldn't see it, of course. I see. I will most likely have to prove myself, so I should get that over with. Sasuke said in a blank tone. It seems that way. They're at a place called Huko Mundo, and I remember telling you how to teleport there, so it should be no problem. Orochimaru said. Then it's settled. I'll go and travel to Huko Mundo and place myself along one of their ranks, then I will get Naruto to fight me whether he wants to or not. Sasuke said and smiled with a grin of revenge. He then abruptly disappeared, apparently headed for Huko Mundo, seemingly not to waste any time. Sasuke had arrived at the desert that the Arrancars called home. He began to travel and noticed some red pillars sticking out of the ground as he got closer to the place. He felt the Arrancars' Ryatsu and increased his a bit so they would notice his. Sooner or later, once he passed a certain spot, a large Arrancar stood in front of the Uchiha with a frightening Ryatsu that would make other Soul Reapers fall to the ground twitching. It hardly made Sasuke flinch as he appeared with a menacing look on his face, but then realized that Sasuke had the appearance of an Arrancar. His rough expression sort of lightened. You're an Arrancar, eh? The man asked. Yes, I have come to see Aizen. I wish to join his army. I think I even have what it takes to be elite, and I have been training hard. Sasuke said blankly as the man began to laugh. You think you can become an Espada? Give me a break, kid. But there is an open spot, but another one is going to get it. Maybe you can fight for it, will be fun for the lot. By the way, the name is Yami. The Arrancar said and laughed some more. My name is Sasuke Uchiha, the Uchiha stated as the two went over to the main hall where the rest of the Arrancar lay. As Sasuke and Yami walked down the aisle, all eyes looked upon Sasuke. It was like they were judging him on how he would react to the many people staring at him. All the Uchiha did was look occasionally, then scoffed and continued walking. The two then stopped and looked up as Aizen was there sitting on his throne, which overlooked each and every Arrancar. Yami, what have you brought to us? An Arrancar, it seems, Aizen said, looking at the silent Uchiha, which looked up at him with absolutely no expression. Yeah, he says he wants to join your army and even says he has what it takes to become an Espada. Yami said, which still made him chuckle. Well, he could be the sixth, but there is another going after that TLE. You two will have to fight for the death to gain the TLE. Prove to me that you have what it takes to become an Espada. Aizen said. Fine. Who is my opponent? Sasuke asked. Over here, Dips. An obnoxious voice was heard as Sasuke blinked and turned around, seeing an Arrancar with light blue hair and an evil grin across his face. Great. If one loudmouth in my life wasn't enough. Sasuke thought, referring to Naruto back in the day. Well, let's get started unless you wanna call it quits now, punk. The man said and jumped down in front of Sasuke. Grimjo, contain yourself, one of the Espadas said before backing away to a safe distance to watch the fight as another Espada put a barrier around each Arrancar in the area except Sasuke and Grimjo so they could not get hurt in the fight. The two unsheathed their swords. Sasuke's had a black hilt and dark purple diamond designs on it, and his blade was shiny steel with an Uchiha symbol for the guard. Grimjo unsheathed his sword and continued to smile with anticipation. You guys should already know what his sword looks like. Ready to brat, Grimjo said, jumping up and down like some people do when they are about to spar. Sasuke had no response and just stared at him, his eyes glowing red as he had unleashed his Sharingan. Grimjo charged up at the Uchiha, unsheathing his sword and jumping up, attempting to slash at him across the chest. Sasuke looked at him blankly with his red Sharingan and drifted back, then unsheathed his sword. No emotion came across his face as he looked at the blue-haired Arrancar. I can see your every move, you can't hit me. Sasuke said with a monotone voice. We'll see about that, you little s. Grimjo said and used Sonido to appear in front of Sasuke. Sonido is the Arrancar flash step. I'm just gonna say flash step since Sonido sounds red. Grimjo began to violently slash at Sasuke, who parried all of his attacks with ease, although the Arrancar's attacks were loose and wild, they were sly accurate. Sasuke then decided to go on the defense and quickly began to slash at him, making Grimjo fall back a few steps. For hours they simply parried each of their attacks and flash-stepped in each angle, fighting in the air or on the ground. They were incredibly even at this state and Grimjo began to get frustrated. "Hey, what a fight, the two are evenly matched, it's starting to bore me," Yami said and groaned, looking over to Ulquiorra, who was the fourth espada. "Indeed, if this fight drags on for so long we might have to put an end to it," he said, but not thinking the normal stop the match but more like King the Uchiha. The espada then walked off and headed towards Aizen's direction. Sasuke and Grimjo clashed blades as their Ryatsu raged on and almost fused with each other. Grimjo growled as he opened his palm. Sasuke looked to see a blinding Sero appear in Grimjo's hands. The Sero then had been fired and made the whole room shake and the ground shatter where the Sero had traveled. Once the smoke cleared, it was to all the Espada's surprise that Sasuke was still standing. His arms were burnt and his open shirt sped off, but Sasuke stood strong and hardly felt the blast. Sasuke then appeared by Grimjo in an instant and slashed his stomach. Grimjo barely avoided the slash and the two began to parry each other's attacks. After a few more hours of parrying each other's attacks again, it seemed like they would get nowhere. Sasuke stepped back and his hand turned black and it condensed into a Sero. He grinned as he shot it. Once it was fire, it was insanely huge and shattered the whole building, almost breaking a barrier. Each and every espada had a surprised look on their face as the Sero was blasted. Grimjo had another close call but saw that his right leg was completely MD. Luckily he could still walk. Sasuke knew Grimjo wouldn't get hit directly and he also knew exactly where he would be. Sasuke appeared in front of Grimjo and elbowed him in the nose, then slashed upwards at him. "An interesting Sero ya got there, kid, but it will get you nowhere," Grimjo said and pursued his attack as each of them began to slash. Sasuke began to irritate him by simply stepping sideways and stepping backwards from each of his attack. "The boy has great potential, it would be a shame if he didn't join the espada, he deserves it." "The only girl espada," Halibal stated, looking over at the first espada, Stark. "Quite," Stark said simply and continued watching. Ulquiorra walked back over to Yami, but before he reached it he looked over at Halibal and what she said. Then he thought, "That boy is only coming in here for revenge, not for the sake of the Arrancar." He then continued to walk, looking at Sasuke with a blank expression but secretly angry. Once he walked to Yami, he looked up to him and said, "Aizen agreed that the fight had gone on for too long. He wants you to go in the middle of the battle and stop him, preferably the Uchiha," Ulquiorra said as he saw Yami flash step and appear in front of Sasuke. Sasuke looked over at Yami. The 10th espada's fist turned red as he was about to fire a bala which is like a Sero but smaller and faster. Sasuke's hand formed with Ryatsu and then swarmed with black chakra. He waited as Yami began to extend his arm. He then placed his hand on Yami's fist as the bala was nullified by the electricity and the electricity secretly took over Yami's fist. Sasuke hardly struggled on holding Yami back as he looked behind him and saw Grimjo dash up toward him to try and secretly attack him by stabbing him through the back. Sasuke raised his sword and rested it back with the blade protecting his back and blocking Grimjo's S. The Uchiha was then in a difficult situation but found an easy solution. He grinned as he waited for both of them to put all their force into the S and punch. He felt their Ryatsus rise as he steadily climbed up, since he couldn't do this without a boost of spiritual power. Sasuke dropped his hand as he saw Yami's hand, which now had electricity around it, come toward him. Since he had put such pressure on it, the momentum swung him forward. Sasuke ducked down and lowered himself so that when he removed his sword, Grimjo would thrust forward from momentum. Grimjo's blade LD Yami all the way through the stomach as Yami's punch hit Grimjo square in the face. Sasuke quickly spun around. His sword swarmed with electricity out of Ryatsu as it gave Grimjo a huge gash. The electricity flooded into the Arrancar's body and he became paralyzed, so he couldn't dodge at all. Yami's punch sent Grimjo flying and made him break the barrier and crash into the wall and fall. Sasuke looked over at Yami and put his foot on the bottom of the hilt and pushed in as far as he could. Yami coughed up blood as Sasuke quickly shoved his sword through Yami's T as he watched the espada collapse. Aizen clapped as Sasuke sheathed his sword and looked at the espada. All had impressed faces except for Ulquiorra. "You are now instantiated as the 6th espada, congratulations. I have already given you a target, you'll probably enjoy this one," Aizen said as he threw a paper airplane out at Sasuke. The Uchiha opened up the paper and saw Naruto's face on it. He grinned and folded it up, then thanked Aizen, and him and the rest of the Arrancars were dismissed. XXX. It had been 2 days before the month is over. Naruto had finally finished his training to reach Bon Kai. He was so proud and very confident of his new power and thanked Kyuubi for training him. The two had been very close in a short amount of time. They would have to be since they would be fighting together from now on. Naruto had went back to the 8th division and met up with Kyoraku and grinned. Guessing by the grin your training was a success. Kyoraku asked. Yeah, you know when I first heard about this proposal I was nervous, thinking I wouldn't be able to become a captain, but now that I have my Bon Kai, and will surely become captain of the 5th squad, I think I can do it, I really do. Naruto said with a smile spreading across his face. Kyoraku grinned, see I told you now didn't me? Kyoraku said as the two talked for a bit but then departed. 2 days passed and the end of the month had come. The meeting was held with the same captains and lieutenants going to the meeting. Naruto sat next to Nanao who sat next to Kyoraku and waited for the subject Naruto was most excited on to come. Yamamoto looked over at Naruto then the topic had come. It has been 1 month Naruto, have you gotten your Bon Kai yet? The old man asked. Yes I did. Naruto simply stated which made Byakuya enrage as he stood up quickly and looked at Naruto gravely. I would like to challenge that. I want to see Naruto's Bon Kai with my own eyes. 2 hours after the meeting I challenge you Naruto, Uzumaki. Byakuya said. Naruto's face turned pale and he stood up and grinned then said. I accept your challenge Byakuya, Kuchiki. The two looked at each other. Naruto grinned as Byakuya's was as serious as ever. Then it is decided, Naruto if you get to your Bon Kai, and defeat Byakuya your captain, if you don't your dreams of becoming one are crushed. Yamamoto said. The meeting was now over after a few minutes of silence and each captain and lieutenant and Naruto was dismissed. Byakuya passed by Naruto and nudged him in the shoulder roughly as the two glanced at each other again and went their separate ways. The hour before the fight was the most painful thing for Naruto, it seemed like the boy said it subconsciously. Now with every Shinigami talking about the Naruto-Byakuya fight it got Naruto really uneasy. He spent the hour in his room and Yoroiki leaped up from the window and tapped a paw on the glass. Naruto opened it then looked to see Sakura standing a bit behind Yoroiki. May we come in? Yoroiki asked as Naruto nodded and Yoroiki leaped onto the ground beside Naruto's bed and Sakura worked her way into the window. I heard about the upcoming fight with you and Byakuya. Sakura said to try and start a conversation. Naruto looked off into the distance and grunted. Seems like the nerves have gotten to you. Yoroiki said leaping onto his shoulder. Yeah, I don't think I'm ready to fight a captain, especially Byakuya for that matter, but with making such a scene at the meeting, pulling back will be the coward's way I can't back out now, Naruto said. You'll do fine, we'll be rooting for you, and I'm sure Kyoraku and Nanao will be as well. Sakura said and smiled making Naruto slightly grin. She then lightly hugged the blonde-haired Shinigami which made Yoroiki have to leap back to the floor. She also kissed him on the cheek involuntarily which made both of them blush and slide away from each other. Yoroiki laughed which made Naruto and Sakura blush more but get mad at the same time. They continued to talk until it was 5 minutes before the hour was up. Naruto said goodbye then began to walk, heading towards the intense sparring area in the 6th division that was on the outskirts of the Soul Society where it was very rocky and it was below the cliff that Ginrei and Minato fought. It was a wide stretch of land between the two cliffs. Soon captains and lieutenants and some Shinigami including Sakura all looked over at a safe viewing distance for the fight. Naruto saw that Byakuya was already there and his sword out of his sheath. Naruto slowly unsheathed his sword and looked straight at Byakuya. See this Naruto, we are directly below the very cliff Ginrei, my grandfather and Minato, your wretched father fought on. Byakuya said looking up at the cliff. Seeing as history repeats itself this should be a short match. Naruto said and pointed his sword at Byakuya seeing that he was angered at the comment. The two dashed towards each other and clashed blades, dragging their Zanpakuto until they couldn't touch each other anymore. The two spun around and began to lash out at each other. Naruto was on the offense trying to see a way through Byakuya's defense which he was mainly on. He then saw Byakuya attempt to blitz him to make him go off guard. Naruto ducked behind a stalagmite as part of it got chopped off. Naruto backflipped from the position he was in and began to slash at him while he was upside down. Naruto landed on the other side and slashed again seeing all his attacks were blocked. Byakuya's captain's haori got a minor scratch on it which didn't do much concerning Byakuya's health. The two stood still and then Byakuya slowly began to walk around Naruto, slashing his sword at the ground, having the dirt fly up into the air. Naruto looked carefully each time the Kuchiki slashed at the ground, it tensed him up. Your father was a good swordsman, I watched him fight, maybe those genes were passed on to you, let's step it up a notch, shall we? Byakuya said as he Ryatsu increased, which made Naruto almost fall to his knees from the pressure. And he hasn't reached his Shikai yet, and his Ryatsu is already this high. Naruto said to himself in utter shock. Byakuya flash stepped towards Naruto and attempted to slash at him. Naruto blocked, but he saw that the middle of his tunic got sped and blood began to pour out. Naruto was shocked since he knew for a fact that he dodged it. The sword didn't even come near him when it slashed down. Byakuya slashed diagonally and once again, although he dodged it completely, his tunic got sped diagonally and blood poured out. This doesn't make sense. Unless, if his Ryatsu boosted his speed, maybe I need to do the same. Naruto said to himself as he raised his Ryatsu and dashed towards Byakuya as they clashed blades. He looked down to see the area where his sternum was getting slashed and Byakuya appeared behind him. Naruto's eyes widened as he felt some darkness creeping up to him. What's this? Wait, I remember this. He's coming out again. Naruto said as the white substance formed around Naruto's right shoulder and half of his face as his eyes turned yellow and the whites of his eyes turned black. Naruto turned around after his hollow form took place. He then spun around lazily and slashed diagonally, which made blood cover the bottom half of Byakuya's haori, from the back of course. Naruto cackled insanely as he drifted up towards Byakuya and punched him directly in the chin as the Kuchiki slammed into the wall. Naruto had appeared there and attempted to him in the stomach, but Byakuya rolled out of the way and flash stepped back. You've pushed me this far, eh? Scatter, Senbonzakura. Byakuya said as his blade scattered into petals as pink petals swarmed around Naruto. Wow, pink petals and your long black hair, no wonder people think you're gay. Naruto said in his distorted voice as he began to dodge each flower petal pillar with no effort whatsoever. Naruto appeared in front of Byakuya and attempted to at him, but the pillar automatically blocked the attack. He then scoffed and said, figures these fruity petals would do something like that. Naruto then paused and flash stepped away from the three oncoming pillars that were supposed to hit Naruto in the back. Naruto grinned as he was high in the sky. He watched as millions of skinny pink petal pillars came charging at his way. He simply sheathed his sword and cackled once more. Naruto cancelled his hovering as he started to quickly fly towards Byakuya with his right palm open, which was hollow feed. Naruto simply spun around, dodging each pillar in a very stylish way. A dark crimson orb appeared in Naruto's hand as it then glowed with a blue tint. It was in fact a Sero that had suppressed the energy of a Sero. Byakuya blinked as he strengthened his petal pillar defense to his greatest, which used up a lot of Ryatsu. The Seraut Phrasengan hit and a huge blast was erupted. It shook the cliffs and shattered one of the barriers the Shinigami put around the rest of the Shinigami spectators. It was a 3-barrier defense that now only had 2 barriers. Naruto's hollow mask cracked and broke, as did his hand after the Seraut Phrasengan had ended. He flash stepped back and unsheathed his sword once more. Byakuya was resting on his knees, seeing that the attack made his Shikai go away. He was amazed at the power but knew that it was not Naruto's true power. Byakuya stood up and looked directly at Naruto as the two looked at each other for a long moment. The reason I had challenged you was because I wanted to test your Bon, Kai, and obvious reasons that only you and a selected few would understand. Now I have been waiting patiently, and if you don't show it I'll actually have to try. Now show me your Bon, Kai. Naruto. Byakuya said, brushing off the dust from his captain's haori. You're gonna regret those words, Byakuya, Naruto said as he stretched his arms opposite from each other, holding his hands out, curling his thumb around the hilt with the hand that had his sword in. He lowered his head and prayed for this to work as he Ryatsu skyrocketed and a bright red-ish light swarmed the area. After a few minutes the area exploded as Naruto's Ryatsu was so intense that it broke the second barrier on the 3-barrier protection. Naruto had 2 chakrams in his hand which had heavy chains wrapped around his arms and up his sleeve all the way up to his shoulder. The chakrams looked like Axel's chakrams. The chakrams were black with a red trim around it and a hint of silver somewhere in there. Naruto had orange shoulder pads that stretched to his sternum which had a flaming light design on them which had some spikes on the shoulder pads which resembled fire. His Ryatsu was now exactly like the Demon Fox's chakra. It actually was the Demon Fox's chakra but with Ryatsu fused with it. The whatif chakra outlined Naruto's body, just like in the Naruto-Sasuke fight in the real series and all, and showed two Ryatsu tails waving around. Naruto's black cloth headband flew from his forehead as he slowly lifted up his head. The right side of his face from the top section of his eye to the bottom of his cheek had its skin spared and was showing fierce red eyes and muscle, sort of think of when Naruto turned for tails and how his skin turned into that red stuff that looked cool. I can't describe it but picture it like that and whatnot. Byakuya twitched and stepped back, his eyes widened at Naruto's new appearance. It seems that my Ryatsu was so powerful it had to be compressed into two weapons which are chakrams apparently. Get ready to regret you ever made me unleash my Bon, Kai. Byakuya, Naruto said in a deep half-demonic voice. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.